welcome to the second segment of this panel. As I said, a huge shout out to Heineken for putting this together. This is Toke Moments live at the Heineken Lagos Fashion Week 2025. We had an incredible first session with our lovely guests, Ugeh and Ibiduni. And then moving on as we talk about Lagos in 2035. What the next decade of African fashion could possibly look like. I will not be alone on this panel. Joining me, let me just first talk a little bit about Lagos. Lagos has always been loud, creative, unstoppable. Lagos is literally the city that never sleeps. I am so proud to have been born and raised in Lagos City. You never truly understand a visit to Nigeria unless you visit Lagos. Lagos can definitely be compared to world cities such as New York and, the first world, in my opinion, because in Lagos, anything can totally happen. You have the best restaurants, the best fashion, the best nightlife, the best music, the best movies and whatnot right here in Lagos. And it's evolving. It's a cosmopolitan state. The world is already watching Africa, as you very well know. They're buying our pieces all across in terms of fashion. They're watching our shows. They're listening to our music. They're studying our silhouettes and celebrating our stories. If you do not think I'm right, or if you doubt that, check out what happened at Dirty December in 2024. It's only going to get even better in 2025. Now, joining me on stage right now to discuss Lagos in maybe 2035. That's about 10 years from now. It's very close to my heart because it's all about, where we're headed as a cosmopolitan city, as a state, and as, the giant of Africa. So first up, we have a lawyer, content creator, and an all-round creative whose voice and vision reflects the bold, expressive pulse of Lagos City. From storytelling through style to sparking conversations around culture and individuality, Tobe Ugeh, popularly known as Tobe Season. If I got that right, Season? I did know. Hi, baby. How are you? Take a seat. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you.
I love what you're wearing. This is Fashion Week. Anything can happen.
Thank you very much.
And of course, joining you, Tobe, she's actually been in here for a minute and I cannot wait to talk to her as well. She's a designer and creative force behind Malite Studio, a brand known for its fearless mix of craftsmanship, structure, and innovation. The gorgeous, absolutely stunning Oluchi George embodies the next generation of Lagos fashion, rooted in culture, bold in design, and ready to carry the story forward. You're most welcome. Hi! I'm so sorry I kept you waiting for so long. I'm so happy to have this conversation because I love Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I cannot stop talking about my city, Lagos. And I love that you guys are part of the buzzing effect of Lagos. This is Fashion Week. This has, been brought to us, put together by Heineken. And we're talking about Lagos 2035, 10 years to come. But I would like to know what your version of Lagos, your earliest stories from Lagos would be first. You can go, differently.
I moved to Lagos maybe 5 years ago, so I didn't grow
you're
up
fresh.
in Lagos. Yes.
Okay.
So do you want to go? Did you live in Lagos?
Oh, no. Let's hear you. Let's hear you. Let's have it.
So I moved to Lagos about 5 years ago. Funny enough, I actually moved because of Fashion Week. Well, I didn't plan to move. I just come for Fashion Week. And everything was so new then. I think something that really sticks out to me is in the bus, everybody would shout, "Oh, wow." And I'm like, what happened to regular? I want to come down. Like, why, "Oh, wow"? But then I think for me, it's culture. There's so much culture woven into everything. It's as little as the stories we hear, the reasons why places are named after certain people. There's so much culture woven in our identity. And I think it's something I really like. It's my earliest memory of Lagos. Oh, wow.
Fun fact, I don't live in Lagos.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was born in the north, Kaduna, and I live in Abuja. But my earliest memory, I think I was 16 and I needed to do something at an embassy and I came with my dad. And I just remembered, like, why is everybody so aggressive? I was on the road and my uncle was driving, and I was like, this is not real life. Like, this is not real life. But aside that, it's a bubbly city. Just seeing people all dressed up for no reason. Actually, I love it so much. And yeah, I think that's the first thing I remember about Lagos.
Talking about being all dressed up from Lagos, let's talk about Lagos parties, most especially weddings and the fashion. You see a video of a wedding in Uyo or Abuja, and you automatically know that's not Lagos. What do you think is different?
Obviously, the fashion. Obviously. And I think it's very fascinating, actually. You just enter the glamour. I think it's a true representation of Nigeria and how people outside view Nigeria as well. They think we're extravagant, we are maximalists, and it shows especially in Lagos and Lagos weddings.
What about you?
I think it's just like she said, the word glamour. When you enter a Lagos party, you just know it's a Lagos party. There's so much to show, there's so much to eat. It's just extravagant, and I really like it. I think it's so beautiful.
Now, talking about why we're here, talking fashion, of late, I figured out there's something called a Lagos hairline with people doing hair. I just figured it out. And what that means for those who are watching at home, Africa has grown in bounds in fashion. And Nigeria is the giant of Africa. When they say Africa, in most cases, they're talking about Nigeria. In most cases, it's Lagos City. Because tell me why, when you put together an outfit and you talk about makeup, the glam, for instance, makeup artistry on its own has grown beyond. They can rival makeup artists all around the world. And you find people in the global stage talking about a Lagos face beat and a Lagos hairline and a Lagos ashoebi and a Lagos fashion. Let's talk about that expression. Why is it so in your face? Why is there a conversation around Lagos when it comes to fashion?
Honestly, I think it's in our DNA. And like you said, the giants of Africa, for good reason, honestly. And I think overall, okay, compared to people in the diaspora, right? And also, I would say Black Americans or African Americans, they've had to deal with adopting culture, style, hair from the Caucasians first before they started learning about themselves. But I think we got to grow in ourselves and find our identity. Obviously, not straightforward, because at some point we were basically importing everything, trying to have the hairstyles that was popping abroad or have the clothes, Zara. We had personal shoppers to bring things over. Now we have personal shoppers sending things out of Nigeria. So there is a shift, because I think we finally found our own. We're comfortable in ourselves, in our hairstyles, in our makeup. Oh, and talking about makeup, the climate here as well. I mean, people abroad had difficulty getting their shades. Black people abroad, they found it hard to get shades. It was Rihanna that made this whole big deal about the number of shades in foundation. But we've been here. Actually, it's lighter people that find it hard to get their foundation shade. So I think we are growing in our own and in our person, and we're blossoming, and it shows.
Do you think creativity has also aided this whole conversation, because they learned the ways of this Caucasian doing hair, but their creativity made it even better?
I think whilst I think it's creativity, I think particularly about Lagos, hustle culture has created excellence, in the sense that I was speaking to a friend the other day and I said, if I need an outfit ready by tomorrow, it will be ready. Because with Lagos, it's almost like we know there's someone better out there. So you are fighting every day to be better than you were. And I think because everyone wants to make it out. It's such a natural awareness that we say, oh, I need to be so good. I need to be so creative. If there's any creator here today, he's going to say, I need to edit my video better. I need to make this dress better. And it's so inside of us. The hustle culture is it's like you said with DNA. It's so inside of us that we're like, I need to hone all my skills. I need to fine tune my creativity. I said, you don't see a lot of famous dressmakers out of the country. So we have couture houses. But in Lagos, we have famous dressmakers. We have dressmakers who are influencers, who are powerhouses, because they almost understand the structure. It's not enough to be good enough. I need to be excellent. And I think the excellence culture mixed with our creativity makes us such a boiling pot in Africa. I've been to Kenya, I've been to Rwanda, but there's a way they speak about African fashion and Lagos fashion. You can tell that in Lagos, we're very hungry for more. And I think it's really, it shows.
Incredible. Now, we've spoken about the highs and the amazing things that are going on in the world of fashion in Lagos, but there are also gaps. Let's talk. Now, we're saying Lagos 2035, right? The Lagos we want to see in terms of fashion and what we want to see happening at that point. But what are the biggest gaps holding our fashion industry back right now, in your opinion? Is it production? Is it funding? Is it the export issue?
I think one very important thing is production, for sure. And when I mentioned earlier that we're finally getting into our own, and it means that we're starting from scratch, low-key. Even when we started using Ashoke, we had to go back to the old ways, the weaving. So we literally have to work on how to make weaving better, not like manually. We need to work on innovation with production, fabric production, and working on our textiles. So for sure, production is a huge thing for us. Down to raffia, we don't have the technology that other countries do. So we might not have the best tools treating our fabrics, treating our materials. But I think that's one of our biggest challenges. But I have faith that in 10 years, we'll figure it out, or at least get close to figuring it out. But with the hustle mindset, right? I think it doesn't help that our country is not fully, or it's not as supportive as they could be, because UNESCO projected that in 10 years, our exports would triple. Fashion in Africa would triple. But that would be impossible if they're not investing back into expertise, into production. We need factories, we need tailoring hubs, we need new techniques to make our productions like up to standard, international, or even better than international standard, honestly, because we're still figuring out our own fabrics. So I think production for sure.
What about you?
I think it's mostly production, like she said, but particularly creating machines that equip us to create our fabrics. And it's like you said with Ashoke, a lot of things are still very handmade in Nigeria. And so what it means is we need to have Nigerians in the rooms where there's technology who say, okay, I need to make a machine that makes Ashoke production easier. I'm putting it at a price where someone in Ibadan can afford it. Because at the end of the day, I say affordability is also a real thing. If you make an Ashoke machine and it's priced at $5,000, no one can afford that. So when it comes to production particularly, it's production that is tailored for our fabrics. Tie and dye that doesn't have to run after a couple washes. And it's like what you're saying, us becoming the international standard. Mm-hmm. Because when we say, fast fashion and luxury fashion, African fashion has always been luxury fashion. African fashion was never to be worn once. We've never been Shein. But we need to be more deliberate if we want to stand the test of time.
I particularly agree. And that leads me to my next question. We're talking about, factories and investments. Basically, that's what you need when you say production. Do you think that the government still sees this as a creativity thing and not as an industry that can save the economy?
Well, because of what the government is doing, I would believe so. I don't think there is a lot of attention on a lot of things in Nigeria. I like to call it the anyhowness of the government of Nigeria. It's almost like a lot of industries are reduced. And I don't think it's necessarily just fashion. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's tourism. I think there's so many sectors that are left unexplored. And it's just like, if private people want to take over, there's such a nonchalance from the government when it comes to things like this. And I say so because whilst we have minimal support from certain arms of the government, it's not at the forefront. It's not being projected well enough to say, people flying for Lagos Fashion Week, it is a big thing. It is almost New York Fashion Week, if not bigger. We are one of the biggest cosmopolitan cities in Africa. I expect the government to act like it's a big deal. I think sometimes we truly minimize the progress we've made, but I do not fault anyone, because I also understand that a prophet is never truly appreciated in its hometown. So it's almost like how we're sitting here, it's almost like we can see the future. We can see where it's headed. I also say that's why we need a lot of younger people in governments that say, oh, like you said, UNESCO has projected how big would be for export. A lot of people don't know that. So we need younger people, fresher voices, and really educated people.
Do you think that it could also be a problem from the foundation in terms of how even fashion is taught in schools when people are young? It's almost like a subject that you do to substitute for, and it's not something that people look at as a business that can actually affect the creative economy.
Yeah, I think what you said about taking things for granted, for sure, and it's also the oldies. They're the ones. No offense to them, but
because some of them had the opportunity,
yes,
but didn't do anything.
They look at it. They don't look at it as important. And I think because growing up, maybe they saw their mothers doing it. Most people had sewing machines in their homes, so it felt like hobby. Anything that looks like it's having fun feels like it's so important.
Yes,
to a lot of people. And another thing again is, once we find a formula that works for one person, everybody just wants to pack there.
You want to do?
Right. You found that, fuel is making loads of money. Everybody's just going to head over there and not explore the other parts, like you said about tourism as well. It's unfortunate that we now have to work for our future, for our children to enjoy the things that we're unable to enjoy. I saw the video where you went to the desert, and I've known about that for a long time, but obviously security and all of that. And honestly, that's a very sad reality in this country, that we don't want to. So now we have to work and make it better for the people in the future. Yeah.
Do you also think it's a people problem as well? Apart from, we can point on to the policymakers and the investors and the government, but do you also think it's a B2B, like a P2P, person-to-person problem, in the sense that, take for instance, Lagos Fashion Week is going on and an international music star is in Nigeria, and the smile on her face when she attended Lagos Fashion Week and the photos, she was feeling almost blessed and lucky to even be here. And you have your own who look at it as a chore, like, oh, to even get up and get dressed and even go there, oh, to even support. Do you think it's a P2P problem as well, where people are not as, I won't say enlightened, because I think they are, but that nonchalant thing you mentioned, where it's like, in the end, I have a day job and this fashion thing is a hobby or it's a thing to the side. So they don't necessarily take you seriously when you say you're a fashion designer.
Yes, for sure. I will even start from I'm going to call my dad out, but I feel like he looks at me and he's like, what are you doing? Like, I've not started saying anything. So it's like, they don't see it. And I don't know how to help people see it. And then the person-to-person thing, I think a lot of us, from what I think a lot, but a lot of us are short-sighted. So we don't like to see the bigger picture. Obviously, this is not an overnight thing. We're putting in work for the compound effects in the future. I don't know how we can work on our mindsets, but I think that's why we're having this type of conversations as well, to get people to think.
And to listen. As a creative, what systems do you think we can put in place to create systems that can protect creatives, empower business growth, and still leave room for the magic that makes fashion what it is. Because it is fun, it's art, it's life, and there's a serious side to fashion which a lot of people sleep on: intellectual property, knowing the how to walk the fine lines of fashion. So, what systems do you think needs to be put in place to protect creatives like designers, models, fashion influencers, without necessarily changing the fun or taking out the fun of fashion?
Well, I think it's just like you mentioned previously. A lot of it still lies in our basic education. I think, and well, because of the economic condition, I understand certain things. When I was younger, I told my dad I want to be a tailor. He said, God forbid. And I can't blame him. Because when you look at it, your parents also want the best for you. The problem is, times are changing too quickly that it's almost like they cannot tell what the best is. My father is very proud of me right now because he's like, yes, you made it true. But if I listen to everything he said, I wouldn't be here. I would have a boring 9 to 5 as a lawyer. So I think primarily we need to teach individualism as basic education. We need to say, it's okay to be what you want to be. I hate the idea that in Nigeria we're taught to be so ambitious that it almost strips us off every other thing. It's almost like you should want to take first position. You should aspire to be the best. The best at what? And I always say, when it comes to it, are you enjoying what you are doing? Because surely you don't want to live till you're 70 and you are simply the best. It's such an unremarkable life to live. So we need to teach individualism. We need to encourage people who are creatives to be creative. It's such a dog eats dog world out here. And when it comes to creative, I need us to encourage a lot of workshops. So people know, if I take a photo, I have legal rights to that photo. And if I've drawn this design, I have legal rights to it. At the forefront, there's a gap. And we need to bridge the gap. And not just government. People who have been here, we need to be more open about access. We need to be more open about knowledge. So I think that's what it is for me.
So I love the word innovation. It seems like a new word. It's so buzzworthy. Everyone's talking about innovation, but what does it really look like here in Lagos? And where do you see the most exciting experimentation of, that word happening in terms of maybe design, technology, or production?
Obviously, in fashion, I've seen it grow in Nigeria, especially with our fusion as well, fusing Nigerian and African elements with Western elements as well, and making it ours. We're having streetwear now that is heavily inspired by our culture and our textiles as well, which is different, is new. Before, we just get the hoodie that Chris Brown was wearing or just replicate everything that we see. But I think that's how we're being innovative now in fashion, and just even random elements, random things we see with the raffia, with Adire as well. And I think over time, I'm excited to see what we discover in the future.
That's very interesting. Another thing that also bugs my mind is sustainability. It sounds great. It's perfect. Everyone's almost dabbling into sustainable fashion. I have this fashion line and it's sustainable, but let's bring it down to a city of hustle. As you rightly pointed out, how can it be realistic in a city that things are changing by the moment? It moves at the speed of light in Lagos. Just when you think this is it changes overnight. So how do you think that can sort of, survive?
I think that's why personally I would always preach individuality over following any trend. Because at the end of the day, every trend will eventually die. You need to wear what feels like you. You need to buy what feels like you. So that way you're not pursuing a trend or to look a certain type of way. It's important we remember who we are and we stay who we are. Because if I have these pants and I like these pants and I say, oh, these are my favorite pants, I don't mind wearing them 10 times a day. I think we must also reduce classism culture and stop gatekeeping what people wear or watching it. I think it's very odd when I find people do that and say, oh, you're repeating this outfit. I usually say, oh, yes, I bought it. So when we also reduce expectation, unrealistic expectations from people who are high up there, it really helps us make clothes more sustainable and makes fashion more sustainable. I would also say perhaps we have designers designing outfits that fit into what they want their clientele to wear, not what they want their clientele to buy. Sometimes you make clothes that are marketable, that you genuinely do not enjoy these outfits. They don't look good, but it fits into the trend right now.
That's actually very interesting. I want to ask you, how do we make the next generation? Because that's, I don't want to ask if the people before us did a good job because we already kind of said no. So since we said no, how do we then make the next generation of designers, stylists, models, influencers, creators, directors, the whole shebang? How do we make them inherit the structure that we didn't inherit? Because it will be a vicious cycle if we sit here and talk about how they failed us and they didn't take this seriously. But we're here now and we're talking about Lagos in 10 years. What part are we playing to build the structure that the next generation would thank today's designers, today's creators, today's directors, today's influencers for?
Well, I think it's conversations like this for a start. I think it's important we have conversations where we talk about sustainability and creativity and innovation. So when they look back, they watch this and said, well, Toke said it's okay. Well, Tobe said, well, Oluchi said it's okay that I can rewear an outfit. I think when you have certain conversations, it reduces expectations, and it's why it's important to have vocal about what we care about. This simple conversation will strike someone somewhere and they're like, I need to stop worrying so hard. I want to design how I want to look. I want to dress how I want to look. I think because there's also a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's better we do some work. We shouldn't burden ourselves with saying, I haven't done enough. I think this, for a start, is very good. I think what the entire Lagos Fashion Week is doing is very good.
Exactly.
I think us wearing Nigerian is really good.
Yeah, I think with Lagos Fashion Week, I'd want to emphasize actually because they've put up structures to help us, help designers. I was part of the Green Access program last year, and I know they're very intentional, picking brands that are sustainable and use sustainable practices. And with that, with the Green Access cohorts, we had to go through like courses and meet designers, mentors. So it helped me as a fashion designer as well, like just to understand, not to put too much pressure on myself, because this sustainability thing is simple, but it's not. It's very complex. Not everyone understands it. Someone came online and said no brand in Nigeria is sustainable because it's not possible to be fully sustainable, but it's actually not. And then worse off in Nigeria, where we don't even have constant electricity. So we have generator fumes going out today. Like, do you understand? So it's harder here, but what I learned under Lagos Fashion Week Green Access is that you do the best that you can. Anywhere you can substitute for a sustainable practice, do that. You want to make a dress and you want to add fringe. Instead of using the nylon polyester, you can use raffia. And that's why a lot of us are using raffia now, while playing around with it, trying to make it malleable, because these are materials that are biodegradable and they're good for the environment. Same thing with helping brands that are into upcycling fabrics, denim, putting them out there in the spotlight. These are structures that are working, and they're also bringing us out there and helping us understand how to make better choices in production. Even coming down to employing local artisans because of this Ashoke, a lot of people have work. The Adire, and even though now China, they are making their own version of African prints, are making it like 50% like less expensive. So it's our competition, but we're looking back, we're looking inwards as well with our fabrics. And I think that big up to Lagos Fashion Week. So I'm so glad to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years, even doing something in a world where there was no sustainability when it first started, and also there was no structure, but building something like this, I think Heineken partnering with, Lagos Fashion Week has been an excellent partnership and has literally helped birth so many brands, so many beauty brands, from idea to actualism. Now, something very interesting. Every era has its own disruptors, right? And this one is no different. So, who from today's scene, fashion scene, music scene, whatever, gives you hope that the future of Nigerian fashion is in good hands? Who would you say?
There's so many though. There's so many. Emmy Casbit for sure. Love Pepero, love Kilenta. So some of my favorite brands. I'm always very excited to see what we're doing and how we're being recognized as well. Like, I think we make things cool. And I'm glad that we are realizing that now. Because I remember I was in school and a lecturer, he spoke to me, he was like, you Nigerians, why are you guys always dressed up? Like, why are you studying law? Go and study fashion. We can't all study fashion, but I think we make things look so cool. We come into class, we look good. Again, down to the maximalism of it all. So, kind of lost my train of thought.
What about you, Tobe?
First of all, I have myself. I think I'm doing a good job. Obviously, I have Oluchi, I have Toke, I have Rema. I think I love his individualism. I like people who are crazy. Like, this is what I like, and I'm going to dress like what I like. I think off the top of my head, certain Nigerian brands, Mason Wosu, T.I. Nathan, Ekikere. There's so many people doing amazing stuff. There's Wisdom Kai. He's one of the biggest fashion influencers, not even African, and he's of Nigerian descent. So it's just like I said, excellence culture.
The first time I watched him, I just knew he was Nigerian before I found out he was Nigerian. Because as you said, we're just so much. We're just so boisterous.
Yes.
We just make things happen. It's inborn. So let's talk about Lagos Fashion Week 2035. What do you see happening then?
So what's funny
in 10 years, what do you see this becoming?
I think, or I believe, and I'm usually right, as opposed to people thinking everything is going to be so futuristic, I think we're going to revert into more traditional prints. I think there's a general awakening, and people are like, I think I prefer Lisa Falawio to Dior. I think people are becoming more culturally aware. So I believe we would revert. We've spent the last 10 years trying to be seen. It's time we're going to be felt. We're going to incorporate modernity into old African textures. We're going to find ways to show. It's like with Japanese fashion. They've done, so as opposed to the simple, they've made it more accessible. They've made it quick. They've made Japanese crop tops. I think we're going to do something, but we're going to do that. But we're going to make it so cool. We're going to be, you know how there's K-pop and it's so famous. I think that's what African future is going to be in 10 years. We're going to be center stage.
Amazing. What about you?
Yes, honestly, you said the major thing for sure. Because some people are, well, I had an argument with someone and he's so sure that we're going to drop Ashoke very soon. I know. He just, like, so some people think it's a trend. The whole, now people want to wear Iran Boba and step out. Because there was a time, our old fashion houses, they started that way, but somehow that's shifted. But I think with social media, we're not taking into consideration social media, how everything now is globalized. Everyone is seeing, everyone's looking for uniqueness. We're not all trying to just blend and be the same. So yes, I think in 10 years for sure, we would go deeper into our roots. We would discover new materials that will turn and make it fashion. I have so much faith in the future of fashion in Nigeria. I feel we'll be bigger exporters. We'll find, thanks to social media, honestly. And I think people across the world will look at us and know that we are like a fashion powerhouse of a country. in total. So I think that's what I see for 2035.
2035. I love it. I love it. And I want to give an absolute deep, loud shout out to Heineken Lagos Fashion Week for, starting what Tobe feels like. Conversations like this are actually going to make the difference. I think this is the first time they have like live podcasts also on the side of Fashion Week, which I think is absolutely incredible. And of course, creative minds like yourself who look absolutely stylish, making the time and coming here to lend your voice to a greater cause to, create structure for the next generation, which we will still be a part of, hopefully. So thank you guys for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you
I
so much.
absolutely learned so much. And I hope you are home obviously learned a lot. It has been real. This has been Toke Moments. My name is Toke Makinwa. Yeah, but before I do that, I always forget to ask questions. I don't know why. Anyone has any questions to ask our lovely guests, please feel free to ask before we sign out.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a question for Tobe. I saw that he recently called him to bar, so I really want to know how he is going to incorporate being a lawyer as well as being a fashion content creator. Like, what is his plan moving forward?
Thank you very much, my co-learned colleague. She's a barrister herself. So I think for me, it's still a conversation of so the individuality for me is mixing parts of who you are together. I think is why I'm wearing a suit at Fashion Week when I should be wearing like a leather jacket. I think for me, I'm also trying to take it very slowly as it comes. I think last year, I really looked like a lawyer at Fashion Week. And this year, I look like I work in a bank. But I'm trying to mix both of them in a way that I don't lose my sense of identity in either way. So I want to be able to look how I want to look young and cool, which is how I like to look. But also sometimes I like to put on a suit and reflect that I'm a barrister. So that next time you say I have a question for barrister to be okay. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Anyone else has any questions? Yeah, there's a lady on the second table, please.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
My name is Maris.
Hi,
So
Faris.
for Malite, I know you handle Malite. For Malite, what kind of fashion would you consider Malite, and what is the future plan for Malite as a brand itself?
So for Malite, when I started, it was very Nigerian centered, but I started so what you said about individuality and selling something, and then there's the creative part, right, where you design something, but there's also the marketing and the business part. You actually have to make money, so it's not just designing. So finding out that you actually have to pay attention to what people like so that you eat. So it took me 5 years, but I'm finding a balance between designing, finding designs deep-rooted in culture that would still be practicable for like everyday casual. So the future of Malite is basically a fusion of our African styles, African materials with our modern world right now. I'm making it. How do I explain it? Okay, there's so many factors. I feel like I'm getting a little overwhelmed, but there's so many factors. Things like the weather. Ashoke is a bit thick for the weather, for example, right? So we're now trying to make that for Nigeria, for the modern time now. So that essentially explains what I'm trying to do, trying to transform that and customizing it to ourselves and our lifestyle. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else has any question? The lady has one more question.
Hi, Tobe.
Hello.
So I noticed you've been doing a lot of traveling, and now what is your plan? Are you trying to infuse being a travel vlogger into your part of content? I mean, I know that you are a fashion content creator. So why am I seeing you traveling? What is the goal for that? What is the vision for that?
So in all honesty, I've been asked a lot, but never publicly. I truly don't know. And a year ago, I wouldn't have said that. I'd have given you a more PR favorable answer. But I also think, I don't know. I enjoy what I'm doing right now, and I do not want to have to make it what it's not. When people tell me, oh, you're a travel vlogger, I'm like, well, I know I've been to 17 states, but I thought I was just having fun. And I think because as creators, we forget that that is why we started, to have fun. There's no brand plan. There's no exact, I want ABC. There's no KYC. I just want to travel. And I hope that someone here feels like, I wanted to travel 4 years ago, but I couldn't afford it. Let me start from there. And then when I got done with law school, I was like, well, I have enough money to at least go to Kano now. And then I went to 5 other cities and I enjoyed it. And I told my story. I think primarily I'm a storyteller. In case you see me directing a film tomorrow, I said it, I'm a storyteller. But I want to say, I don't know what the plan is. And I don't know what I want to do. And I think that's okay.
I think it's very
Yes, it
okay.
is.
All right. Anyone has any more questions?
I do.
Hi.
Hi guys. You guys
Hi.
look absolutely lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
First off, so my question is, do you think fashion is expensive for the average Nigerian, or is just expensive, period? Now I'm asking this because in the first session, TM had asked the 2 guests, and one person did say, oh, so you know how something can be expensive but still affordable based off of the different factors, branding, production, all the different plenty things. It can be big money but still affordable. But then nowadays it's looking like as if fashion brands just paste one certain amount to it and just like, oh, buy it or leave it, which I do get, like, the idea of luxury. I think we all, at this point, or everybody who is in Lagos Fashion Week would appreciate fashion, whatever the price the brand puts on it. You want to believe that they think is worth the piece and their effort. But do you think it's getting a little overboard?
Good question.
I actually have 3 things to say about this because I'm very passionate about this. The first thing is what I said earlier about Nigerians when they find something that looks like it works, everyone wants to get there and do the same thing everyone's doing. So I don't know if they told someone that there's so much money in fashion, just slap $1,000 on something and you make so much money. And everyone wants to price their products that way. There's that. And then 2, I think even the whole idea, I know the earlier speaker said that not everyone can afford Ralph Lauren, right? But I also think that not every designer can be Ralph Lauren. There are different levels of luxury. There's mid to low, there's high-end luxury as well. But I think, like I said, we're still finding our own. Eventually, we'll know where we would fall to. If we don't decide, the audience will decide for you. Because by the time you slap a huge sum of money, a huge price on something, and no one buys, no one tells you to re-strategize. You will do it on your own. So I think we're all trying to find where we are, where we'll be placed. Some of us would be low, mid to low, luxury brands. Some would be high end. So I think that's where we are at the moment. Yeah.
Tobe?
Yeah, I think we'll find our way, Sha.
So I think the answer is very contextual. I'm going to tell you why. When you say fashion has become expensive, so top of mind, I'm thinking, well, a lot of things have become expensive in the past 5 years. You know, we've had a recession. But are you trying to buy into a brand that is also perhaps not in your... And when people tell me things like, oh, I think this designer is expensive, I sometimes also say, and not even in the way that people say, oh, I'm not your target audience, but sometimes genuinely, you're not in that tax bracket to purchase it at that time. Mm-hmm. When I'm 17, I wasn't thinking of wearing $2,000. Like, can we touch grass? And sometimes when people say, oh, I think this brand is too expensive, sometimes I think the money doesn't reflect in their products, in their production, in the quality of the work they are putting out. But sometimes I also say, okay, but you are doing business. And there's a profit margin there. So I think what I do most times is say, I want to give a brand grace. Maybe, obviously, So there was something that happened recently. Wisdom bought from, I think, either Fendi or Chloe, and the buttons kept coming undone. And it was like, this is terrible because that means your production quality is bad. So in that case, I would say, yes, things are getting out of hand, things are at an all-time high. But I also think sometimes videographers charge a lot of money, photographers charge a lot of... We cannot ask to be paid more, but you do not want to pay more.
Yeah.
I think it's also a very important conversation in the creative space. Photographers want to be paid more. Models want to be paid more. Everyone wants to be paid more. What should the fashion brands do? Surely it cannot come from their pockets. So there has to be a margin. If you want an outfit, ask a local tailor to make it. And by local, not as an insult, I mean like an ingenious, traditional tailor. There is such a... Everyone wants to aspire now. Everyone wants to wear the in thing. And that's what I'm saying about trend. Buy what you enjoy. Support. Fashion starts at home.
Yeah,
Yes, I think that's
agree.
what it is.
Thank you so much. Any other person has any question? Okay. On that note, is there one more person? No, that's it. On that note, I think the last answer you gave was actually very, very... You guys shed more light into this conversation that I think would not end, because it's going to be ongoing for as long as people want to purchase fashion items and feel like, certain things are expensive. But thank you guys for coming and sharing your wealth of knowledge. I've had so much fun having both of you on board. This is Toke Moments. My name is Toke Makinwa. Shout out to Heineken Lagos Fashion Week for bringing this conversation to life. Many more conversations like this in the coming years, hopefully, so we can bridge the gap between consumers, fashion brands, designers, directors, photographers, fashion influencers, and the ecosystem that makes us who we are. Thank you so much for watching. Chat with you on the next episode of Toke Moments.
This is Lagos, a city of innovation, a city of style, a city of excellence. We shape beauty with our hands stitched from the rhythm of the market. Our roots are deep, and we wear them with pride.
Oh, yeah, fine boy, take away auntie, bougie, ile, oh, I fancy when I see a type. One kill.
Modern, fearless, Lagos is always one step ahead. The heartbeat of African fashion and innovation, where taste rules. This city inspires. Here's to Lagos, to fashion, to the city of cities.